It started with a feeling, a nagging, gut-wrenching feeling that something wasn't right. I wasn't the paranoid type. I never checked her phone, never questioned her late nights, never second-guessed when she said she was going out with the girls. I believed in trust. I believed in her. But lately, things fell off. At first, it was subtle, little things, a shift in energy. She was distant, not in an obvious way, not the kind of cold distance where someone stops talking to you. No, this was different. She was still there, still smiling, still saying all the right things. But something in her eyes had changed. She wasn't present. She was always on her phone, texting, laughing, that soft, smirking kind of laugh, the kind that made me wonder, what could possibly be that funny? I'd ask, "Who are you talking to?" She'd just shrug, locking the screen with a single tap. "Oh, no one. Just the girls." But she never let me see. And then there was the perfume. She started wearing it all the time, not just for nights out, but even when she was just going to the store or running errands. I asked once, jokingly, "Why are you dressing up for Target?" She laughed. "I just like smelling nice." I didn't push it, but my gut twisted. Then came the nights. She used to roll in a bed next to me, curling up against me, her body warm and familiar. But lately, she faced away, her back stiff, her phone tucked under her pillow. I heard it buzzing at night, soft, almost silent. She thought I was asleep. I wasn't. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, wondering who the hell she was texting at 2 a.m. And then came the night that changed everything. She was supposed to be home by 10, 11 at the latest. She didn't walk through the door until almost 1. I was waiting in the dark. No TV, no distractions. Just me and the silence, sitting on the couch, my fingers curled into fists. Finally, I heard the keys jingle outside. The door creaked open, and she stepped inside, sighing softly, like she was relieved. That's when I saw her. Her makeup was smudged. Her hair was a mess. And when I kissed her, she smelled like cologne. Not her perfume. Not something light or floral. A deep, musky scent. A man's scent. I pulled back, my stomach flipping. "Where were you?" She hesitated. Just for a second. Just long enough for me to see the flicker of panic in her eyes. Then she smiled. That same sweet, practiced smile she had given me for years. "I told you, drinks with the girls." Lies. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. But in that second, that tiny, fleeting hesitation, I knew. I was being lied to. And that was the moment everything changed. At first, I told myself I was crazy. Maybe she really was just going out with her friends. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe I was letting my insecurities get the best of me. But my gut, it wouldn't shut up. Every time she walked out that door, every time she tilted her phone away from me, every time she came home just a little too late with a story that didn't quite add up, my stomach twisted. I tried to ignore it. I told myself, she loves you. She wouldn't do this to you. But that little voice in my head whispered back, "Are you sure?" So I did something I never thought I'd do. I picked up my phone, took a deep breath, and typed into Google, "Private investigator near me." My heart pounded as I scrolled through the results. This felt insane, like something out of a movie. What kind of guy hires a PI to follow his own wife? But I wasn't just some jealous husband. I needed the truth. I clicked on a number. The phone rang once, twice, then a gruff voice answered. "Yeah." I hesitated for a second, suddenly unsure. But then I thought about the cologne on her skin, the lipstick slightly smudged, the lies. And I said, "I think my wife is cheating on me." There was silence on the other end. Then the guy let out a breath. "Okay, what makes you think that?" So I told him. I told him everything. The late nights, the secret of texting, the unexplained charges on our credit card, the weird energy, the hesitation in her voice, the way she had started avoiding eye contact whenever I asked simple questions. I expected him to brush me off, to tell me I was imagining things. But he didn't. He just listened. And when I finally stopped talking, feeling like a complete fool, he said 6 words that sent a chill down my spine. You're not crazy. You just want the truth. My throat tightened. And you can find it? He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, if she's hiding something, yeah, I'll find it. My grip on the phone tightened. This was it. Once I said yes, there was no turning back. I took a deep breath. Do it. The investigator exhaled. All right. Send me her schedule. I'll take care of the rest. I hung up and stared at my phone, my pulse thundering. I had just set something in motion, and part of me already knew I wasn't going to like what he found. The investigator started following her. I told myself it would take time, that these things weren't like the movies where you get answers in a day. But I was wrong. Within 48 hours, he had already found something. I was sitting at my desk when my phone buzzed. It was a text from him. We need to talk. Found something. My stomach dropped. I grabbed my phone and called immediately, my hands shaking as I put it to my ear. He answered after the first ring. She's lying, he said flatly. No subarcoatin. No hisetastin. She's not going to dinner with her friends. I felt my breath hitch. Where is she going? Silence for a second. Then, I sent you some pictures. Look for yourself. I pulled the phone away from my ear, clicked on the messages, and opened the first photo. And my entire body went cold. It was her car. But it wasn't at a restaurant. It wasn't at a bar. It was parked outside a random apartment complex. A place I had never seen before. A place she had never mentioned. She was there for hours. No texts. No calls. No updates. Just gone. I felt my stomach tighten as I swiped to the next picture. And the next. Time-stamped photos. Her car sitting in the same spot. No movement. No proof she had ever left the building. And then, the final photo. I felt like the air had been sucked out of my lungs. Because there she was, walking out of the building. With him, a man I had never seen before. Tall, dark-haired, smirking as he walked beside her. And then, right there in the parking lot where anyone could see, he kissed her. And she kissed him back. Not hesitant. Not reluctant. Like it was normal. Like she had done it 1,000 times before. I dropped my phone onto my desk, my hands trembling. My mouth was dry. My head was spinning. The investigator's voice came through the phone again. You still there? I swallowed hard. My throat felt raw. Yeah. You want me to keep digging? I squeezed my eyes shut. My head was screaming, you have the proof. You know the truth. What more do you need? But another voice whispered, what if this is just the tip of the iceberg? I clenched my jaw, took a deep breath, and said, keep going, because I had a feeling this was only the beginning. I felt sick. But the worst part? That was only the beginning. I thought it was just one guy. A mistake. A lapse in judgment. Something I could wrap my head around, even if it shattered me. But I was wrong. The investigator kept digging, following her trail like a shadow. And what he found turned my world inside out. She had a system, a routine. This wasn't just cheating. This was a second life. It started with hotel receipts. At first, I didn't recognize the transactions. They were small, paid in cash, nothing that would raise alarms. But when the investigator sent me screenshots, my stomach twisted into knots. Luxury hotels. Not the kind you book for a girls' weekend. The kind you rent for a few hours when you don't want anyone to know you were there. The dates lined up. Days when she had told me she was staying late at work. Nights when she said she was too tired to come home and crashed at a friend's place. I felt my pulse throb in my temples as I scrolled through the evidence. Then came the dinners. Paid in cash. Always different places, far from our neighborhood, far from any chance of running into someone we knew. Romantic spots. Dim lighting. Intimate. She wasn't being reckless. She wasn't making mistakes. She was calculated. Every move she made, every excuse she gave me, it was planned. The investigator even got security footage from one of the hotels. When I opened the file, my breath caught in my throat, because there she was, walking into the lobby hand in hand with him, not sneaking, not nervous, comfortable, like they had done this 100 times before. And then, another video, another man, not the first one, someone else, tall, blonde, different build, a completely different person. I felt my stomach turn. How many were there? I thought I was uncovering one affair. But this wasn't just cheating. This was a pattern, a lifestyle. She had carved out an entire existence behind my back, with different men, different places, different stories. The woman I thought I knew, she didn't exist. And suddenly I realized I wasn't just losing my wife. I had already lost her. That night, I sat on the edge of the bed, listening to her steady breathing as she slept. She looked so peaceful, like nothing was wrong. Like she hadn't just spent the evening texting another man, laughing at messages I'd never see. Like she wasn't sneaking around behind my back, weaving lie after lie into our life. I clenched my jaw, my fingers twitching with adrenaline. I needed answers. I quietly reached for my phone, my heart hammering in my chest. I opened our online banking app, my hands cold and sweaty. At first, everything looked normal. The mortgage payment, the grocery store runs, streaming subscriptions. But then I saw it, a section I had never noticed before. An account that shouldn't have been there. A hidden credit card. I felt my breath catch in my throat. My stomach dropped. I clicked on it, and a flood of transactions filled the screen. Thousands of dollars, all spent without my knowledge. My hands shook as I scrolled. It didn't make sense. Lingerie stores, not the kind she ever wore for me. Luxury hotels, the same ones the investigator had found in his reports. Flights. Wait, flights? I clicked on the details, my pulse racing. She had booked trips. Not with me. With them. Weekend getaways. Out-of-state meetups. Plane tickets purchased under her name and someone else's. I felt like I was going to be sick. This wasn't just cheating. She was financing her entire double life. And the worst part? She was using our money to do it. My stomach twisted with rage as I kept scrolling. Thousands gone. Dinners. Designer gifts. Hotels. All for men I had never met. All while she kissed me goodbye in the morning, told me she loved me, and acted like nothing was wrong. I turned to look at her, sleeping so soundly beside me. Who the hell was this woman? Because she sure as hell wasn't my wife. I met with the investigator in person, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it might burst out of my chest. The drive, there was a blur. My fingers gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. I barely noticed the traffic, the people, the world moving around me. Because after everything I had already discovered, the late nights, the lies, the hidden credit card, I thought I knew what was coming. I thought I had already seen the worst of it. I was wrong. When I arrived at his office, the investigator barely looked at me before sliding a thick manila folder across the desk. His face was unreadable, his expression carefully blank. "Before you open that," he said, voice low, "just prepare yourself." My stomach twisted. I didn't like the way he said that. I reached for the folder, my fingers stiff and cold. I pulled it open and everything inside me went still. I expected to see more pictures of the guy from the apartment. The one I had already seen kissing my wife. The one I had already hated in my head 1,000 times over. But instead I saw someone else. A completely different man. Tall. Blonde. Not the same build. Not the same face. Not the same anything. I felt my pulse hammering as I flipped to the next page. More pictures. My wife. Laughing in a restaurant. Holding hands. Kissing. With him. A second man. I swallowed hard. My mouth was dry. I looked up at the investigator. My voice barely a whisper. "Who is this?" He sighed and leaned back in his chair, rubbing his jaw. "That's not the guy from the apartment." The words didn't register at first. I just blinked at him, my brain refusing to process. Well, what do you mean? I asked, but I already knew. I already knew. There's more than one, he said flatly. She's not just cheating with one guy. She has multiple. Multiple. I felt the world tilt, like the ground had just cracked beneath me. This wasn't an affair. This wasn't one mistake. This was a life. A life she had been living behind my back. How long? How long had this been happening? I turned back to the file, my hands shaking as I flipped the pages. Then, another face. A third man. Dark-haired, clean-cut, different from the other two, but the same story. My wife, smiling, leaning into him, whispering in his ear, touching him. I slammed the folder shut, my breath coming fast. This wasn't just a bad decision. This wasn't a one-time slip. This was deliberate. She had multiple men, different places, different routines. How long had I been the fool? I clenched my fists, forcing myself to breathe. I'd come here thinking I was going to uncover one affair. Instead, I had uncovered a pattern. And suddenly, the question in my mind wasn't how did this happen? It was how many more are there? I needed one final piece of evidence before I confronted her. Something undeniable. Something she couldn't twist, couldn't explain away with another lie. And the perfect opportunity was already in front of me. She had a business trip coming up, a weekend conference in another city. She had been talking about it for weeks. I have to go, she told me one night, casually stirring her coffee like it wasn't a big deal. It's mandatory. Some leadership thing. Boring, but necessary. I had nodded, pretending to believe her. But after everything I had already found out, I knew better. So I told the investigator to follow her. And of course, she wasn't at a conference. I got the call the next afternoon. I was sitting at my desk, trying to focus on work, trying to pretend that my world wasn't crumbling around me when my phone buzzed. I picked up on the first ring. She's not where she said she'd be, the investigator said, skipping the pleasantries. My breath caught in my throat. Where is she? He hesitated, like he knew what he was about to say would break me. Then, a beachfront resort. I closed my eyes. Of course. She's not alone, he added, his voice edged with something like sympathy. I already knew what was coming, but I asked anyway. Who's she with? There was a pause. Then, in a voice so flat it made my stomach twist. Not the guy from the apartment. Not the guy from the last set of photos. I felt a sharp pang in my chest. Not the same guy. A third man. My pulse roared in my ears as I gripped the phone tighter. Send me the photos, I said, barely recognizing my own voice. A few minutes later, my screen lit up, and there she was, walking hand in hand with him down the sandy path toward a private villa. A man I had never seen before, different from the others, but the same damn story. In one photo, she was laughing, tossing her hair over her shoulder, looking up at him like he was her world. In another, they were by the water, his hands on her waist. Then, the one that made my stomach drop. Them kissing. Not a hesitant kiss. Not a mistake. Something practiced. Something familiar. I put my phone down, my hands shaking. How many were there? How many times had I kissed her while she still had another man's touch on her skin? How many times had she looked me in the eyes and said, I love you, knowing damn well she was saying it to someone else too? I wasn't just being cheated on. I was being played. And now I had everything I needed to end this. I didn't tell her what I knew right away. I played the long game. Because she thought she was smart. Thought she had covered her tracks. Thought she had me fooled. So I waited. Waited for her to walk through that door, still carrying the scent of another man on her skin. When the day finally came, I heard her car pull into the driveway. My pulse was steady, calm, controlled. She walked inside like nothing was wrong, dropping her bags by the door, stretching her arms, letting out a soft sigh, like she was exhausted from a long business trip. And I just watched. She didn't see me at first. She was too busy scrolling on her phone, probably texting him. I studied her. The way she moved, the way she smiled to herself. Like she had just spent a weekend in paradise. Like she had just gotten away with it. Finally, she looked up. "Hey, babe." She gave me that same sweet, practice smile, the one I used to believe. "Miss me?" I didn't answer. I just sat there, one arm draped over the back of the couch, phone in my other hand. Her smile faltered just slightly. That's when she noticed something was off. She hesitated. You okay?" I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, my voice calm. Measured. "How was the conference?" The question landed between us like a loaded gun. And for just a split second, I saw it. The flicker of panic in her eyes. Then, just as quickly, she recovered. She smiled. "Oh, it was good." She nodded a little too quickly, walking past me toward the kitchen. "Long days, but really productive. I'm exhausted." Lies. She opened the fridge, grabbing a bottle of water, her back to me. Avoiding eye contact. That's when I spoke again. "Really?" I pulled out my phone, my voice still controlled. "Because I heard the beach was nice this time of year." She froze. Just for a second. Then she turned around slowly, gripping the water bottle too tightly. "What?" I didn't answer. Instead, I slid my phone across the table. And I watched as her entire world came crashing down. She picked it up confused. Then she saw the first photo. Her. On the beach. With him. Her breath hitched. She flipped to the next one. Them holding hands. The next. Them laughing, drinks in hand like they didn't have a care in the world. The next. Them kissing. Her face drained of color. Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. I leaned back, crossing my arms. "Try again." She swallowed hard. Her grip on my phone was so tight, I thought she might crack the screen. "Babe, She shook her head, her voice breaking. "I can explain." I let out a cold, empty laugh. "Can you?" I gestured toward the phone, because it looks pretty self-explanatory to me. Her lips parted, desperate to find the right words. But there weren't any. She had been caught, red-handed. She looked at me then, really looked at me, and for the first time I saw it. Fear. Because she knew. This was the end. She stammered. Her lips parted, then closed. Her mind was racing. I could see it in her eyes, the desperate scramble for an excuse, a way out, a lie that might somehow fix this. But there was no fixing this. She clutched my phone like it was her lifeline, like if she held onto it tightly enough, she could somehow erase what was on the screen. "It's not what it looks like," she blurted out, her voice thin and shaky. I laughed, a dark, hollow sound that didn't even feel like it belonged to me. "Really?" I tilted my head, tapping the table slowly, each beat ringing in the suffocating silence. "Because it looks like a beachfront resort." She flinched. I leaned forward, my voice low, cutting. "It looks like 3 different men." She swallowed hard. "It looks like a woman who's been lying for a long, long time." Her breathing was uneven now. Her fingers trembled as she placed the phone back on the table, like she couldn't bear to look at it anymore. "Please," she whispered, her eyes welling up with tears. "Let me explain." I clenched my jaw, gripping the edge of the table until my knuckles went white. "Explain?" My voice came out sharp. "Explain what? That you accidentally tripped and fell into multiple men's beds? That the hotels, the secret credit card, the trips, you just forgot to mention them?" She sniffled, blinking rapidly, trying to hold the tears back. Not tears of guilt, tears of getting caught. "Listen, I was going through a lot," she started, her voice unsteady. "It wasn't about you, I swear. It was just, I didn't mean for it to happen like this." I let out a slow exhale, shaking my head. "You didn't mean for it to happen like this?" I grabbed the file, the thick, damning folder of proof, and slammed it onto the table. "Then tell me," I said, my voice deadly calm. "How long have you not been meaning for this to happen?" She stayed silent, because she knew I already had the answer. I flipped the folder open, letting the pages spill out across the table like the wreckage of our marriage. Receipts, photos, screenshots, every single lie she had ever told me, black and white proof staring back at her. She squeezed her eyes shut, her lips trembling. I leaned back, my hands pressed together in front of me, studying her. "I have every text," I said, my voice eerily even. "Every receipt, every time-stamped photo. I have more proof than I even know what to do with." Her breathing hitched. "And you want me to believe it was just a mistake?" I scoffed, shaking my head. She stayed quiet, and in that moment, something inside me just clicked. I wasn't sad anymore. I wasn't hurt. I wasn't even angry. I was just done, because the woman sitting across from me, the one I had loved, trusted, built a life with, she didn't even exist. She was just a mask, a hollow version of someone I thought I knew. And now, I was looking at a stranger, and this stranger had destroyed everything. I stood up. She was still sitting there, eyes glassy with unshed tears, hands clenched in her lap like a child caught stealing, still trying to find words to save herself. But there was no saving this. No apology could undo what she had done. No excuse could erase the cold, calculated betrayal she had built behind my back. She opened her mouth, maybe to beg, maybe to lie again. I didn't wait to find out. I just turned and walked away. I heard her breath hitch, heard her chair scrape against the floor as if she was about to follow me. But I didn't stop. I didn't even look back. I walked out the door, leaving behind the wreckage of the life I thought we had. But the craziest part? A week later, when I thought I had finally put it all behind me, when I thought I had uncovered every filthy secret she had been hiding, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it ring. I wasn't in the mood for spam calls or wrong numbers. Then a text came through. I frowned, staring at the screen. "You don't know me, but I know your wife. She's been lying to me too. We need to talk." My entire body went cold. I sat up straight, my pulse thudding in my ears. Who the hell was this? A second text came in before I could even process the first. I thought I was the only one, but I just found out about the others. I clenched my jaw. My stomach twisted. I had spent weeks thinking I was the fool, that I was the only one being deceived. But now, I wasn't just a betrayed husband. I was part of something bigger. I dialed the number, my fingers tight around my phone. The call connected almost instantly. A man's voice came through the line, low, bitter, laced with the same disbelief I had been drowning in. "You're the husband, right?" I swallowed hard. "Who are you?" He let out a cold laugh. "The guy from the apartment." My stomach dropped. Him. One of the men the investigator had caught her with. The first one I had ever seen in those photos. "You should know," he said, voice flat. "She told me she was single." I inhaled sharply, gripping my phone harder. "I just found out about you a few days ago," he continued. "And not just you." I froze. "Not just me? What do you mean?" I asked slowly. A heavy pause. Then, "There are more of us." My breath caught in my throat. "More?" The investigator had found 3. But apparently, that was just the tip of the iceberg. "How many?" I asked, barely recognizing my own voice. The man exhaled. "So far, 5. I went completely still. 5. 5 different men. 5 different lives she had been juggling, keeping each of us in the dark, weaving lie after lie, moving between us like a ghost. I felt sick. The man on the other end sighed. "I'm meeting another one of them tomorrow. If you want in, I'll send you the address." I didn't answer right away, because suddenly, I wasn't sure if I wanted to know the truth anymore. Not because I didn't deserve to know, but because I had no idea how deep the rabbit hole really went.